My shack wasn't much to look at. A crooked roof, chipped blue paint, and a porch that creaked louder than my knees. But it had soul. It was my granddad's fishing cabin. Passed down through generations. I used it as a weekend getaway. A place to sip lukewarm coffee while pretending I didn't have bills waiting for me back home. Unfortunately, my humble retreat sat right on the edge of Cedar Hills Estates, a neighborhood that took pride in manicured lawns and HOA regulations thicker than a Bible. Then came Karen, the self-appointed guardian of the community's aesthetic integrity. Her lawn was surgically trimmed, her mailbox polished to a mirror shine, and her dog wore seasonal bandanas. The moment she saw my old shack, I swear her pearl necklace tightened. She claimed it was a blight on the neighborhood and brought down property values. I tried to explain it wasn't. Even in the HOA's jurisdiction, my land was technically grandfathered out. But logic to Karen was like garlic to a vampire. She'd march up in her pastel tracksuit, clipboard in hand, snapping photos like she was gathering evidence for a true crime documentary. One morning, I caught her measuring the fence line with a laser pointer. "This eyesore needs to go," she huffed. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. The next week, I received a notice of demolition intent taped to my door from her. Not even a legal authority. She'd somehow convinced a few board members to petition for a community beautification project, conveniently centered on my shack. I called her bluff and went to the town zoning office. Sure enough, she'd filed complaints under fake nuisance codes. When the clerk rolled his eyes and stamped denied, I thought it was over. I was wrong. That night, Karen stood outside my shack with a flashlight, lecturing me about community standards while her husband hid behind a hedge. I told her if she stepped 1 foot on my property again, I'd call the cops. She glared at me like I'd insulted her HOA Bible. "You'll regret this," she said. The next morning, I found fresh spray paint on my porch, the word eyesore scrawled in red. My shack might have been old, but it wasn't ugly. It was history. And I wasn't about to let a meddling neighbor erase it. I didn't know it then. But that shabby little shack she hated so much was about to become famous. Thanks to the most unexpected guest imaginable, it was a Thursday morning when I heard the knock, not the polite kind, but the confident, rhythmic sort that said, "I'm important, open up." I braced myself for another Karen confrontation. But when I opened the door, 3 people stood there, one holding a clipboard, one with a camera, and one wearing a location scout badge. "Hi," said the woman in a leather jacket, flashing a smile. "We're from Netflix. Mind if we take a look around?" I blinked. Netflix. Like the Netflix. She laughed. "The one and only. We're scouting for a film called The Forgotten Lake. We need something authentic, rustic, untouched. This place is perfect." For a moment, I thought I was being pranked. Then she started snapping photos of my porch. The peeling paint, the old fishing rods. "This texture," she said, "it's exactly what our director wants. It tells a story." Meanwhile, across the street, Karen stood frozen beside her rose bushes, staring like she'd seen a ghost. Her jaw dropped when the scout's assistant set up a tripod on my lawn. Within a week, I had contracts, phone calls, and a location agreement worth more than I'd paid for the shack. Netflix wanted to use it for 2 weeks of filming. They'd restore the exterior afterward and even pay for upgrades. Karen nearly combusted. She started emailing the city claiming the film crew violated noise ordinances. Then she went on the HOA Facebook group, ranting about Hollywood corruption invading our peaceful neighborhood. The first day of filming, trucks rolled in. Cables snaked across the grass, and bright lights lit up the shack. I sat on a folding chair sipping lemonade, watching actors rehearse by the lake. Karen marched over in her sun visor, demanding to speak with the person in charge. A producer politely directed her to stand behind the safety line. She didn't take that well. She started shouting about permits and property rights until one of the crew members, a huge guy with a headset, simply said, "Ma'am, this is private property. Please step back." She sputtered like a teapot and stormed home, slamming her front door so hard a bird flew off her mailbox. By sunset, my old shack had transformed into a film set, lights twinkling, fake fog drifting off the lake, and a dozen people capturing its charm from every angle. That night, I grinned at the irony. The same shack Karen tried to demolish was now starring in a Netflix production. And the best part? They hadn't even shot the dramatic scenes yet. Filming day 3 started peacefully, until Karen brought reinforcements. I woke up to find 3 HOA board members standing on the roadside, clipboards raised like shields. Karen was giving them a pep talk, whispering furiously while glaring at the film crew. I could almost hear her plotting, if she couldn't stop me alone, she'd weaponize bureaucracy. The crew ignored her, too busy filming a lakeside monologue. But Karen wasn't used to being ignored. She marched straight up to the director, a calm man in black sunglasses, and demanded he halt production, pending HOA review. The director blinked. "Ma'am, this is permitted by the city." Karen puffed up. "But this shack violates visual harmony standards." He smiled. "That's why we love it." That line destroyed her. She spun on her heel and stormed off, muttering something about property devaluation. 10 minutes later, a county officer arrived. Apparently, she'd called in a noise complaint. He took one look at the legal permits and shrugged. "Everything's fine here, ma'am." The crew loved it. Someone joked they should cast her as the villain. Later that day, I overheard a scene being filmed, the protagonist arguing to save an old lakeside cabin from demolition. The irony nearly made me choke on my coffee. The script was about preserving history against greed. Karen's shadow loomed across the set, arms crossed. The director called cut and glanced at her. "You're really committed to this role," he joked. The crew laughed. Karen didn't. She retaliated by calling the local news, claiming Netflix had illegally occupied residential property. When the reporter showed up and realized the truth, they interviewed me instead, the proud owner defending his heritage. That segment went viral. Overnight, the shack became a symbol of community resilience. Messages poured in from people saying how it reminded them of their grandparents' lake houses. Karen vanished for 2 days. I thought she'd given up. Then came the finale, during a sunset shoot. She drove her SUV halfway onto my property, blaring her horn to protest noise pollution. The camera caught everything. Netflix didn't cut the footage, they used it. Her silhouette, shouting and pointing at the cabin, made it into the background of a pivotal scene. By the time the crew packed up, the shack gleamed from its fresh paint job, stronger than ever. Karen's crusade had officially backfired. But she didn't know just how famous she was about to become. Months passed, and life quieted down. The film wrapped, the crew left, and my shack stood prouder than ever. I even got a new porch swing out of the deal. Karen, though, avoided me entirely. Her HOA minions barely made eye contact. Then Netflix announced the release date for The Forgotten Lake. My phone buzzed. Non-stop, locals, friends. Even the zoning clerk who'd helped me before. Everyone wanted to know if it was my shack in the movie. On premiere night, I hosted a small watch party. Popcorn, beers, and my old projector aimed at the porch wall. The opening shot rolled, mist on the lake, a lonely cabin reflected in the water. My shack. Halfway through, the scene with Karen's SUV cameo appeared. The audience roared with laughter. There she was, mid-tantrum, frozen forever in cinematic glory. The director had even left in her muffled yelling, captioned as, "Angry Local Woman." The internet exploded. Memes popped up overnight. HOA Karen versus Netflix, eyesore to icon. When you try to demolish history but end up in HD. Her photo circulated. So widely that even the mayor commented, joking about installing a historical plaque. The next morning, I found Karen standing on the sidewalk, sunglasses hiding her shame. She muttered, "Congratulations," though it sounded more like an allergic reaction. "Well," I said, "looks like the shack increased property values after all." She winced. "I suppose it did. Netflix sent me a bonus check for cultural impact." Reporters came by for interviews. Tourists even stopped to take photos. The shack that once annoyed everyone became a local landmark, a reminder that authenticity beats conformity. Karen quietly resigned from the HOA board. Rumor had it she moved to a stricter community upstate, where fences had to be exactly 4 feet high and beige was the only legal paint color. As for me, I put up a new sign over the porch. The Forgotten Lake Cabin, as seen on Netflix. Sometimes I sit there with a cup of coffee, watching people snap pictures. The boards still creak, the roof still leaks a little, but it doesn't matter. The shack has a story now, one that even Karen couldn't erase. Funny thing is, Netflix called again last week. They're thinking about filming a sequel. Apparently, they want to call it Revenge of the HOA. And honestly, I can't wait to see who they cast as Karen.